All right, welcome back to my little mini series on planning your garden. I am currently planning my 2021 garden. Just as a little recap, in the first video we talked about the agricultural calendar. That is something that you can find online. This is mine for my area. It tells me what plants I can plant, in what month I can plant them, about how long it takes to harvest them, and then whether I'm putting out seeds or transplants. So in the last video, I took this information, I copied it into my planner, and so each month I can see what I can plant that month, and then in the future I'll write what I actually planted on these different days. So that was the first video. The second video is planning the physical space of the garden. So I went into Google Sheets and I made this chart, and this represents my current garden. I've got 6 4x8 beds here. These are my 2 square foot gardens. I actually took this chart, went outside to my garden, and filled this in. So this here represents everything that I have growing in my garden right now. The cool thing about this exercise was I was actually able to see where I wasn't making a great use of space in my garden. That's definitely something I want to work on in 2021, is making the best possible use of space that I can. So I took this information and I copied it into another chart. And that would be my other piece of advice too. If you make one of these charts in Google Sheets or Excel, save it and print a lot of copies, because you're gonna have a lot of different drafts. So I took the information from last year's garden, copied it into here, and then, you know, if you follow my channel, you know that we recently added all of these beds on this side. So in blue, I started to mark in things that I want to grow in certain areas, and started to be a little bit more strategic because I have more space now about things I can grow maybe that I haven't grown in the past, like melons, and things that would be better suited to other beds that I'll be planting in those other beds there in the future. The other important thing to think about, of course, which, you know, anyone will tell you, is think about the amount of sunlight that your garden is going to get in certain areas and certain parts of the year. So right now, the entire garden is getting pretty much, you know, the same amount of sun, except over here I do have a tree, so this area is a little shadier. On this half though, it gets a lot of sun, and I know this summer it's going to get, I don't know if this is gonna work. So these arrows represent this part of my garden, which gets a tremendous amount of sun in the summertime. So I want to keep things on this side of the garden to stuff that can handle a lot of sun. I do have shade cloth and I have other methods for shading the garden, but regardless of all that, it is still a very hot, very intense part of the garden. So that being said, the other thing that I keep in mind is companion planting. There's a lot of things that you can plant in the same area that will do really well with each other. For me, I think the main one, hey, come on, is doing tomatoes and carrots together and mixing in herbs in those areas as well. Come on. All right, so anyway, companion planting. So I have to do a little bit more research also on what are some good companion plants for the things that I do have growing. I also know in this area of the garden, there is a lot of things that are gonna be coming out of the garden pretty soon. There's some cabbage, bok choy, some winter vegetables that really aren't gonna be in this space for much longer. Once they're ready to harvest, that space will open up and I'll be able to put some different summertime things in those spaces. And my very last piece of advice would be don't be afraid to change your plan. That's why I have many more copies of the garden plan that I made, because I know that I'll end up changing my mind. I think the only reason that I went to this kind of chart planning method this year as opposed to previous years is because I did lose control of certain areas of my garden. Things got overgrown, and then I had a lot of things growing that we don't really eat. And so that was, you know, a mistake I feel like a lot of gardeners make. So this year, by having it all laid out in a way that I can easily see visually, I can make sure that the things I'm growing are things we actually want and things that we'll actually eat. So just as a quick recap, what I did was I made this chart in Google Sheets, copied in what I was currently growing here, copy that over here and added in the things that I want to plant in a different color. And then I also am going to be considering which areas get the most sunshine, what companion plants I might have, and then depending on your garden situation, my garden is fully irrigated, but you may also want to consider which things need more water, which areas of your garden may naturally get more water. For me, that's none. So again, thanks for watching, and in part 3 we'll talk about getting your seeds ready and assessing your seed collection.